So we think of Slack as the best home for basically employee agents, the ones that you make
Yeah.
available to employees. And
Mhm.
we think of Slackbot as the employee super agent that can help
Yeah.
make handoffs to all these other agents. It's a personal agent. It's for you. It's not for teams. It's not for the company. It's for you. We went from 0 to like 40,000 weekly active users in a matter of a
Yeah.
few weeks. I do think in the next couple of years you'll see as many agents in Slack as you do humans. I think our old ways of thinking about capital expenditures, of building business cases, like that stuff is completely invalid right now.
Yeah.
And more important that you try things as fast as you possibly can.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. We are going to talk about a product which a lot of us use almost every day. We can't live without it, and it's a product that's evolving in the interesting times that we are in. We're going to talk about Slack and Slackbot, which is their new product, which has just been announced. And we have with us Rob Seaman, who is the Chief Product Officer and CEO of Slack. So, Rob, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all the listeners that are customers and users of Slack.
Yeah. So, Rob, you have just announced Slackbot. Could you sort of tell our users in this AI world where we are all going agentic and we think agents are going to take over our jobs and also make life much easier for us. So how do you think the Slackbot sort of fits into this new world we are in?
So if you go back to Slack for a long time has had Slackbot. It's actually been there for 10 years or so. And it's a very rudimentary like notification system, and it
Yeah.
tells you you're added to channels or you're removed from channels or a channel's been archived. So about a year ago, we said, what if we took this concept? It's already there in your Slack, and people actually like have some endearment for Slackbot already, and turned it into a personal AI agent that could help you. And so we started prototyping, and it became immediately clear that there was something very powerful and lovable there, frankly. And so I think that the key thing with Slackbot is it's a personal agent. It's for you. It's not for teams. It's not for the company. It's for you, and every single individual, because it has access to your Slack, meaning it
Yeah.
can see what's publicly available in your Slack. It can access the private channels and direct messages that you're a part of for you. It can also access the systems that you have connected to your Slack. So it's become, in our early dogfooding of our own use, the rollout to Salesforce, and with 50 plus pilot customers, it's really become an indispensable personal agent, and people love it. It's really cool to see. We've seen over 80% week over week retention of users using it.
So, in my last season of the podcast, I had a chat with Mohak Shroff, who's the chief product officer at LinkedIn, and and he gave me this catchphrase that the agentic AI is your chief of staff, right? So is the Slackbot going to be the chief of staff for you working inside your Slack ecosystem?
I think it is. And I think the key thing is it is meant to be a chief of staff for you.
Yeah,
But it's also meant to be complementary to your other AI tools. I want to be very clear that like we remain an open ecosystem, and we want our customers and users to bring the products into Slack that are the best fit for them. But we absolutely think of Slackbot as your chief of staff. It's like I use it. I use a great example. I used it last week to go look for the upcoming all hands presentation, find all of our new hires in the presentation, and tell me how to pronounce their names. That's absolutely something a chief of staff would have
yeah.
done before. And it was able to do it in 10 seconds. And it's pretty amazing.
So, you know, uh, I would say over the past few months, the adoption of agentic tools is also going up. It's not maybe scaled up the way people thought it would happen. But everybody is now figuring out a lot of new things. Especially this week, we're seeing very interesting products come out. Um, so, are enterprises getting the hang of it? Because initially they suddenly had the AI boom, then they had Gen. AI use cases. They had new use cases coming up now. Agentic use cases are coming up. So are enterprises getting the hang of it? Are they having to pivot their understanding of what to do with this, frequently? So how are you looking at the entire scenario? What is your advice maybe to enterprises on how to adopt it?
Yeah, so I think they are figuring it out, but I do think it's a process of trial and error. There's no methodology, and I think that's okay at
Yeah,
this point. I think my advice, we do this internally at Slack. My advice to customers would be to try as many things as you like fiscally responsibly can try, and then see what works for you, your company, and your individual users. We have tried to make Slackbot something that will work for all of your users, and we think it will because it's close to where they're talking to their colleagues. It's connected to your Slack and their system, so it's going to be very relatable. It's easy to find, very relatable, easy
yeah,
to use. But we experiment with all kinds of other AI products. And I think what Slackbot can ultimately help do is when you find the things that are meaningful for your company and you deploy them into Slack so that people can use them, Slackbot will make referrals over to that and actually help people discover the AI that matters to you as a company and get them to use it, you know. And so I think that's the role that we can play. But I would tell everybody just go try as many things as you can, you know, rapidly. I think our old ways of thinking about capital expenditures, of building business cases, like that stuff is completely invalid right now.
yeah,
And more important that you try things as fast as you possibly can because the rate of change is incredibly fast right now. And if you're betting on business cases and long evaluations, like you're just going to take too long and you'll have missed a cycle, you know? So.
yeah. So also, I know you spoke about agentic enterprise, like you mentioned Slackbot as being sort of like your personal assistant, but how is the agentic AI piece helping enterprises take care of a lot of things, right? Like you can build in a lot of you know as in regular functions being sort of hived out to the agentic enterprise to take care of. Is that how you would look at it? And then your employees themselves working on really deep stuff.
I'd say it's a combination. So I'll talk a little bit about like what we've seen amongst our customer
Yeah,
base and what
yeah,
we're doing ourselves within Slack. So I think Slackbot gives you basically a personal assistant that you could, or chief of staff, as you said, to make available to every employee. And that's going to be a productivity improvement for every employee. I mean, it's going to save them time and give them time to work on higher order tasks, higher value tasks, and be more creative. Now, the agents that we're seeing thousands of agents that are being deployed into Slack, and that's everything from coding agents to agents that are taking care of things that used to be handled through workflows to new agentic workflow systems. But I think probably the best example use case is actually a coding agent. And so we've got a number of those that have been deployed to Slack, from Vercel to Claude Code to OpenAI's Codex. You can use all of those in Slack now. But if you think about where the conversation is happening about what you want to build or about the changes you want to make to something you've already built, like it's typically happening in Slack channels, right? It's happening in team channels or an individual feature channel that where you're saying, hey, you know, this part of our own device's website, we should actually update the
yeah.
copy, move the logo over here, do that. And people are talking about that in channels. Well, these agents can just be another member of the channel now. They can
Mhm.
listen and you can say, hey, Claude Code, just go ahead and look above here and see what we talked about and go make that happen. Or Codex, go do that, you know, or Vercel, go do that. And I think that's probably one of the first places many companies can start and achieve a ton of value is honestly from the coding agents. But we're seeing it, you know, you see it happening in design and other areas as well.
So the way the way a lot of companies have integrated Slack into their workflow. So it's an integral part. It's like your spine. So is that a great place in a way for the agent to sort of rest, because it gets the entire context of the organization? Because exactly what you said, the conversations are all there, right? So it has the context. It knows what is maybe taking the mind space of the company at that point. Like, so how are you looking at that? So, I hear a lot about orchestrating these different agents. But and I guess a platform like Slack is a great glue for all of that.
It really is. And so we think of Slack as the best home for basically employee agents, the ones that you make
Yeah.
available to employees. And
Mhm.
we think of Slackbot as the employee super agent that can help
Yeah.
make handoffs to all these other agents. But what makes Slack the best home for employee agents is two things. One, proximity, right? So people
Mm.
spend a lot of time in Slack because that's where their colleagues are and they're communicating with their colleagues. And then having the agent be right there, that proximity advantage means people don't have to hop out and context switch to another user interface or go out to a browser or anything
Yeah.
like that. So proximity benefit, you really can't, most people underestimate how powerful that is. And the companies that put their products into Slack see higher adoption than the companies that don't put their products in Slack. So that proximity advantage is huge. And then the context, as you mentioned. So what actually matters to a company, what matters to a user, that's in Slack, right? And making that available in real time to the agents through our real-time search API and through our MCP server, like that, those two things, the proximity and the context, are what's going to make the agents valuable, but also get them adopted, And I think that's the single biggest thing that we can do for users is provide a central place for them to engage all their agents. And then for
Yeah.
companies, like we can get the agents basically used and value derived from them because of it.
So I'm sure you're also seeing how uh, people are changing the way they work, right? And I'm sure, like, I can say personally, like, um, sort of leaning on AI to understand things that I'm not good at. Um, um, and a lot of other use cases, like, I keep telling people that you can't now say that I don't know how to do this, right? Like, there's somebody to help
Exactly.
you do this,
Yeah.
right? So it's changing the way we work. So how do you think having Slackbot there right at your fingertips, how is that changing the workflows, how people working? And is that sort of opening up bandwidth? Is it opening up new use cases? So what are you seeing? What's exciting you the most?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when we turned Slackbot on for all of Salesforce, so Salesforce has 80,000 plus employees, right? Like we went from zero to like 40,000 weekly active users in a matter of a
Yeah.
few weeks, and we didn't tell anybody. They were telling each other, and we actually have a feature in Slackbot with for shareable prompts, and so people were telling each other about it. They were sharing their prompts amongst each other. And we actually have an entire document that was crowdsourced by our employees called the most stealable prompts for Slackbot. And it's organized by sales, service, marketing. And again, we didn't do this, our users did it.
Yeah.
And so it has a virality to it in the sense that users are telling each other about it, sharing prompts around. And as part of that, they're sharing like the time that they're saving or the way that they're actually changing how they work. And I think that the time savings are clear. People are just
Yeah.
spending way less time looking for information, writing documents. They're getting a lot more done in a fixed amount of time. But the new ways of working thing is really interesting to me. So we've got, product managers that are using it to sift through feedback from in-product survey responses. From the Slack and Salesforce products and turning that into backlogs and product briefs for the engineering teams. We have people uploading images of designs and comparing them to each other and actually saying, hey, how does this compare to this other feature that was shipped 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
There's a lot of new ways of working that are emerging, and that's what's most exciting.
And this also means, like, the AI is also listening into a lot of the conversations in the company. So is that it? Is that a governance challenge also? So how do you build that in? Like,
Yeah. So the AI is actually not listening. And so that's I think that's one of
Okay.
the most important things. So what we've done, the way that we built Slackbot is we actually take a mod. This is very important for our customers that are security conscious, and also see their conversations as part of their IP, which they
Yeah.
should. We've taken a model, we've picked it up, and we've put it down in our AWS VPC. So no data actually leaves the Slack boundary and goes to the LLM provider for
Okay.
training. Nothing's or for the completion, and nothing's used for training. So we can guarantee that none of your data is used for training, like the model's actually not learning. But it does use a very sophisticated set of real-time searches and RAG techniques to get that
Yeah.
context. So it assembles the context on the fly every time a user asks it to do something. And so we do have a number of conversations with early customers. And once we talk to like the CISOs, the CIOs, the security teams, and explain how it works, which is basically real-time searches into Slack, always using the user's credentials and always honoring our permission system, then they get very, very comfortable with it. So I think we've tried to prevent any of those issues from the beginning by design.
Yeah. So this also gives a lot of insight into the company if you are leadership, right? Is there a dashboard that a C-suite can sort of tap into?
Not yet. So we're just
Okay.
starting. So we just made it available. We just made the product available to users today. A dashboard is absolutely forthcoming. So we are able to track, how many users are using it weekly, the message volume, et cetera, and we'll be adding dashboards into the product over time. We will not be adding in dashboards that show the messages that people are sending to
Yeah.
Slack,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything like that. But they will be able to see like the overall usage of Slackbot and therefore have some approximation of the ROI they're getting from it.
And you are in this interesting vantage point, like where you see how how we work is is evolving, and it's evolving very fast. You know, and you spoke about maybe it's not a good time to maybe make a annual business plan, right? It
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it'll be redundant in a few weeks. But if you had that opportunity to do a little bit of crystal ball gazing, in the position that you're in, where do you see we are headed? Maybe in a couple of years.
It's interesting. I think that if you look at Slack as an example, so if you look at our Slack internally, we have
Yeah.
80,000 we have 80,000 something users in our Slack. That's all of Salesforce employees.
Yeah.
I would expect in the next couple years, we will have as many agents in Slack as we do employees. And it's going to change the dynamic, I think, of how people use Slack. And that's something that's very exciting for us as product design and engineering people to figure out is I think every single person is going to have a series of agents at their disposal in their Slack that can help them get work done. And that creates like an interesting design challenge for us at Slack because it's not only communications with humans, it's constant monitoring of what the agents are doing, when they need to be interrupted, when they need you to actually guide them or steer them, when they're stuck, and I think that creates an entirely new paradigm. So I do think in the next couple of years, you'll see as many agents in Slack as you do humans. And that becomes something that is going to be very interesting to design for. I also think orchestration, honestly, there's a lot of talk of orchestration, but we take a fairly simplistic approach within Slack, which is like we want to see the problem before we fix it, and
Mm.
the fact of the matter is like you don't have yet a high volume of agents in Slack consistently across all of our customers so that you need to do orchestration, right? Like if you
Yeah.
go like if you canvassed and surveyed all of your listeners, like you would get wildly different responses on the number of agents that they have deployed, right? So orchestration, the need for orchestration isn't consistent yet, you know what I mean? So I think we could start by making simple referrals to other agents, like help people find the agents that exist in their company, refer them over to them, point them to them, and then eventually do orchestration. So, but once we have as many agents in Slack as we have employees, you will need orchestration. So,
If I can ask one last question. Are we seeing a scenario, or are we going to see a scenario where, like, employees will be very sure that they want to work only in a place which is giving them access to agents? Like, because it becomes a part of the way they work that you have to work with an agent because that agent sort of gives you the superpower at work. Um, are we close to that scenario that people will maybe take a call not to join a new job because you don't have access to good agents?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw 3, 4 years ago, we would have engineers interview at companies and ask if the company used Slack, right? And they wouldn't take the
Yeah,
job if the company did
yeah,
Slack. The corollary here is agents, 100%. I
yeah.
think if the company is not making the right AI and the right agents available to their employees, they're not going to get the best talent. So
So absolutely interesting times that we are living in. Um, and thanks for being on the show, Rob.
my pleasure. Thank you so much. Very nice to meet you. Thank you to all again to all the listeners that are users of Slack. Please try Slackbot and give us your feedback.
Absolutely. So you were listening to Rob Seaman of Slack. We'll be back again next week with another guest, lot more knowledge and insight. Till then, we are available everywhere you listen to your pods.